This video is brought to you by getting punched. Don't get punched. With this new trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 comes the obligatory things that are missed video that I can't ever escape making, along with everybody else who does literally the same thing. But I like to think my particular shade of yellow text and red arrow sets me apart. I mean, it doesn't, but regardless, let's get into some of the Easter eggs and references and whatnot, including new information on what enemies we'll be seeing, some sweet retro Earth technology, the introduction of Kurt Russell as Ego the Living Planet. By the way, with all of this, potential spoilers, you gotta say that. Plus then some super bizarre Marvel characters I'd love to see appear in this or future Guardians movies. This first thing took me a few seconds to realise, but the device Peter Quill is using to detect the Obelisk, the multi-dimensional creature, whose role I'll expand on in a bit, is actually a modified Mattel Electronics football game that was released in 1977. You can still pick one up pretty cheaply on eBay, probably because, well honestly, it looks like literally every one of those original bleep bloop garbage handheld games from that era. There is a reason though he'd have this piece of throwback technology. It's because when Peter Quill was taken from Earth in the 80s, his backpack was probably brimming with all this retro gear. Not just his Walkman. Maybe he's got one of those He-Men, a Teddy Ruxpin, a Glowworm, a Tommy Turbo, one of those balls with the plastic circle around them and you stand on. You remember those? God, that was so shit. Anywho, I think I talked about this in my previous trailer breakdown, but Yondu will be joining the Guardians after being usurped by Taserface, who considers him a soft leader for not killing Peter Quill. Seeing as this movie takes place a few months after the last, he's initially probably going to be going after the team, which explains why he's got that whistling arrow trained on Rocket. Taserface isn't the only antagonist. However, their main nemesis is Ayesha, High Priestess of the Sovereign. It was revealed a while back that she and her people hired the Guardians on the back of their previous galaxy-saving efforts to take out the Obelisk, which has been trying to eat their planet's power source, and in exchange for this, they intend to hand over Nebula so they can get her back to Xandar. I'd imagine if you're not a fan of this series, I just said a bunch of nonsense words. Rocket, though, ends up stealing from them, and because they're all gold pricks, a merry chase ensues across the galaxy. Nebula must get loose at some point, because she's seen trying to gun down her sister in Peter Quill's ship, the Milano. At least I think it's his ship. A bunch of the Ravager ships, they're the same basic design. I don't think this has actually been seen in the other trailers and TV spots, but Nebula is still missing a hand. It's possible that after betraying Thanos in the previous movie by siding with Ronan, she's unable to go home and ends up on the run from both the Nova Corps and Thanos. Though we won't be seeing Thanos in this particular movie, despite being present in the last. In place of her robot hand, she's got what looks like one of those funny little arcade claws. I'd imagine this would be perfect for nearly winning a stuffed toy. And I say nearly because those games are rigged. You ever seen anyone win anything good from them? It's a bloody scam, mate. Okay, here's a funny little thing that I found out. I was going to try and decode Peter Quill's shirt using whatever space language this is written in, but then I remembered, wait, this is the internet, where if you think of a thing, somebody with more time and talent has probably already done it for you. So big thanks to Reddit user, Ooh, Chimpanzee That.
Oh, chimpanzee that, monkey news.
Because now we know that it says Gears Shift. I mean, it looks like it could say, yeah, baby. And it's kind of a shame it doesn't, because I think someone should bring that back. I tell you what, when you're at work or school or with friends or whatever, if you could just casually drop in a really enthusiastic Austin Powers circa 1997, yeah, baby, and let me know how that goes, that'd just be swell. We also finally get to see Ego, the Living Planet, as a man. Like I've said before, reportedly we won't see him in planet form. But I have my doubts about this. You don't add a character called Ego, the Living Planet, and then not have him in his natural state. Just an impossibly big dumb face slapped on the side of a planetoid. It looks like the team ends up crashing on a planet where they find Ego, and later we see what looks like a different planet that's all shifting about. I wouldn't be surprised if that's just Ego returning to his original form or syncing up with a planet or whatever. I don't know. All I'm saying is he can't just be a man. I mean, he is Kurt Russell, who's one of the best men, but still, come on. Also, it should be pointed out that Aaron Schwartz will be playing a younger version of Ego, presumably in flashback when he meets Peter Quill's mother on Earth. How exciting. What an exciting thing. What I love about James Gunn is he doesn't shy away from putting in a bunch of weird and wonderful characters in his Marvel movies. Rocket Raccoon, Taserface, Sean Gunn, and even going as far to include Howard the Duck, who previously had been considered the cinematic equivalent of being forced to eat a rotten pumpkin filled with broken glass and live hornets. So who really knows what else he might be inclined to include? And I want to run through some of my personal favourites that I'd love to see. Starting with Beta Ray Bill. He's like Thor if Thor wasn't Thor, but a weird horse-faced alien who dresses exactly like Thor and also wields a Thor-style magical hammer. Funny story, it was thought that he actually appeared in the previous movie in the Collector's Chamber. This, however, was debunked by James Gunn himself, who stated it was definitely not him. However, he did tweet this picture of himself holding Mjolnir on the set of Part 2, leading many to believe that this is indeed a hint that Beta Ray Bill will appear in the sequel. Why would it be him and not Thor? Well, Gunn has also previously stated that no Avengers will be appearing in his movie. I mean, it's incredibly likely that because he works at Marvel, then it's really easy for someone like him to get his hands on Thor's hammer and then, take a fun picture that means nothing and send fans into a frenzy for no reason and whatever. But you never know until the film comes out. Also, it should be pointed out that a number of characters who aren't Avengers, in this universe at least, have also wielded the hammer. So it could be Odin, Airwalker, Jane Foster, Eric Masterson, Awesome Android, Frog Thor, more commonly known as Throg, Red Hulk, and Squirrel Girl. So expect to see any and all of those characters, but not really. And it's possible he just loses it, seeing he's not holding it in this picture. So, so many options. So many options. Okay, so what about Mojo? Basically an evil alien monster who lives on Mojo World, located inside the Mojoverse. All those things being called Mojo aren't a coincidence, by the way. I'm fairly certain that he named them after himself. Mojo and his race, the Spineless Ones, entire society revolves around watching the television. Sounds a bit like a bloody parallel to the world we live in, am I right? Maybe if people bloody looked up from their screens once in a while and read a bloody book or something. You see, nobody talks to their neighbours anymore. Kids should be down the creek catching tadpoles and building themselves tree houses. When was the last time you saw a dad throw a bloody pigskin with his kid? And what's wrong with a good old-fashioned picnic with the fam? Or grabbing a stick and a hoop and toddling off down to the local corner store for a handful of milk duds and a carton of eggs? The internet probably killed the milkman also. Soon Amazon are going to be using their bloody drones, their spy planes, to drop milk all over the bloody country. So maybe less time on Facebook and more time face to face. You want Twitter? Go outside and listen to the bloody birds, mate. Tumblr? I hardly know her. Reddit? More like get some bloody red skin from going to the beach. Get some sun on ya. More like anti-social media, am I right? What is this, Black Mirror? Anyways, Mojo probably won't appear because he's more of an X-Men character. This next one we've actually seen briefly, but I say it's high time he was brought back, even though he was in the last movie. Cosmo the Space Dog. If you're not familiar with Cosmo the Space Dog and are wondering, what is a dog doing in space wearing an Earth spacesuit? Well, the answer to that is so simple that you should feel like an idiot for even asking. You see, before humankind itself ventured into space, a number of animals were sent as test subjects in order to measure the effects of things like radiation, the impact of microgravity on biological processes, and whether the sky was actually just a real big painting that a rocket would comically bounce off. It started off with smaller creatures like fruit flies, but later people were just chucking up whatever. Monkeys, mice, frogs, guinea pigs, rats, cats, possibly together, I don't know, tortoises, newts, jellyfish, quail eggs, stick insects, a bat that once attached itself to the outside of a shuttle and decided not to fly off and was incinerated in the atmosphere. That's a real thing that happened. Plus also a bunch of dogs. So many dogs. In fact, the Russians loved sending dogs into space. And a lot of these animals, many of them did not survive or weren't retrieved. In the Marvel Universe, Cosmo was one of these dogs that went up in the 1960s and disappeared. But the story goes that he managed to make his way to nowhere, ended up mutating, and as a result was imbued with a number of psychic abilities, including telekinesis, telepathic illusions, mind control, and others. Also, he can talk and has a Russian accent, obviously, and he was last seen freed from his chambers, so I'd say there's a decent chance we'll see him again. That's the dream. That's my dream, at least. And also to end world hunger. I'm not selfish. Alright, let's burn through some more before we wrap this up. Captain Marvel. Not that Captain Marvel, or that Captain Marvel, or that Captain Marvel. No, I'm talking about Captain Marvel. You know, the one that's an alien android who would yell, "Split!" and all his limbs would then detach? Great for kicking yourself in the ass. Now, he's not actually a Marvel-owned character, but I do think he's in public domain, so just chuck him in, who cares? Or perhaps they could go with 3D Man. One of his abilities, I presume, involves existing as a 3D entity, which would be impressive if literally every other being in existence didn't have that exact ability. Look, I don't mean to criticize, but if I were him, I would change my name to 3-DeMan. It's just a bit more rad. Okay, so I put this one last because I genuinely think it cannot be topped. If I'm wrong, well, to be honest, that's great, because I'd love it if someone's been created who's better than Dr. Bong. What were they bloody smoking when they came up with this one? Probably a bloody bong, mate. One of those bloody drug bongs. But great jokes aside, he's actually called Dr. Bong because he's a Bell-themed supervillain. His superpowers are listed as no superpowers, but he is a genius scientist with knowledge of engineering, and he also wears a bell-shaped helmet which creates a number of effects when struck, including, I'd imagine, an ear-splitting sound that ruptures his own eardrums. Alright, that'll do it, but if I've missed anything from the trailer, please let me know in the comments below. Bearing in mind it might be something that I covered in the previous trailer breakdown, but probably not. Also, if you want, leave a comment on a character you'd like to see introduced into the universe, or even one that's upcoming that you're excited to see. Commenting is free also. That's a little gift from me to you. Also, I've got some other videos you might be interested in, including 6 surefire ways to kill Wolverine. And also I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet, where every Monday we break down the comic book movie news of the week and, talk about whatever else. Like how Wolverine is probably a weeaboo. Think about it. Think about it. That's linked below if it tickles your fancy. Thanks for watching this though. I appreciate it. Take care.